Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's episode of All Elite Zone Podcast, Talking Elite. So happy to be back. It is yours truly, the Bearded Wonder, or Say Beard, and I appear. Adam Glexy here with a very special Sunday episode of Talking Elite. Before we begin and introduce our topic, let me welcome our panelists for tonight, or our group friends, or whatever you guys want to call them. We can call them a family, a wrestling family. Joining us tonight, always one of my favorite people. He always makes me blush, Mr. Jason. Jason, how are you doing?
I'm doing well, sir, and I do not make you blush. I say nothing that's untrue.
Well, I appreciate that always and forever. So you are one of the greats of the minds of the history of pro wrestling, and I appreciate you being here. And, of course, joining us tonight, our favorite producer, our one and only producer, the man, the myth, the legend, the Marina Shafir hater, Connor Hayes. Connor, how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing all right. I'm glad I didn't do a Dynamite reaction Wednesday because I would have lost it. I would have lost it.
Oh, I heard you'd went a different way and became the president of the Marina Shafir fan club.
The day that happens, that's the day that I don't like CM Punk anymore. That day will never happen. If that happens, something's seriously wrong with me. Check me into something's seriously wrong with me if that ever happens. But
hey man, you put enough zeros behind it, I'll put anybody over. I don't care.
So that's it, Connor. So as long as we don't put a title on Marina Shafir, you'll be okay.
Honestly, I don't want to see her anywhere near my TV screen, but she definitely doesn't deserve any to maybe have AEW can do their own 24/7 title, announce the title, she wins, but. If they put a title on her, that's a joke.
The all gender title at AEW.
But yeah, unfortunately she's back. I'm sorry everyone that has to witness this. But yeah, hopefully she isn't on TV for too much long.
Well, with the angle, before we get into our topic, I guess we'll go off on this. I mean, the angle they played, I mean, it seems like she's going to be a big time player being introduced with Mox, as being Moxley's gal pal now. I don't know if that's what they want to go with, but I mean, I can see it. They're really tight. They love Roderick Strong. They put the title on him, so I mean, his wife could possibly get a push now too. So I mean, that's a possibility. Before I get your response to that, Connor, though, ladies and gentlemen, joining us all the way from Midwest, our favorite diva here. The biggest Wardlow fan, Danny. Danny, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm here. I have missed you guys more than you guys know when you've got a 45-minute commute to get to work and you have to duck wildlife farm machinery and you basically come home and go right to bed. You're like, my God, but it feels good to be back. And I'm actually in Chicago this weekend. And I had Portillo's, Adam, and I was thinking of you when I had it.
Oh my God. No, don't make me jealous. God, do I miss those chocolate cake shakes. Those are and I gotta watch my diet though. So
hey, Adam,
through the roof. What's up?
You want to know what I'm doing when I think of you?
I can imagine.
Okay. Oh.
But Connor, in response to what I just said, I mean, how big of a push now that she's next to paired with someone that's literally AEW and literally is carried AEW, which is Jon Moxley. I mean, you got to not put it behind you and maybe say, yeah, they may put a title on her. Which title? We don't know. I mean, maybe the Ring of Honor women's title. I mean, what do you think?
She doesn't deserve any title. Even with Moxley, Moxley's been stale for a while. I don't know. But this seems like a different character that he's doing. We've never seen this type of Moxley in AEW. It's always been unscripted violence or BCC. That's all we've seen. But this was like a different Moxley, but I don't think he can get her over. If Dusty Rhodes couldn't get her over, nobody in this almost ever is going to get her over. Since Mariah May just won her title and Mercedes will check, I don't think they're losing those belts anytime soon. If she wins anything, it'll be the ROH Women's Television Championship. Because they want to keep that belt on Athena forever, which I want to see Athena on AEW again. I get they want to put her on Ring of Honor, but she's been there for 2 or 3 years now. Eventually, she can't be. She needs to be moved up to AEW because that's where people want to see her. Like, not everyone watches ROH, and rightfully so. They don't watch ROH. But if she wins any title, it should just be the ROH television title, and I wouldn't even do that, to be honest, if I was the booker. But it's probably at least an ROH title. That's all I'll give her.
Yeah, I guess the question, I guess we can go to our resident diva ourselves here in our group, Danny. I mean, someone like Marina Shafir now being present on our television and all those, women over in the Ring of Honor roster, someone like Athena who's been there a while, someone like a Billy Starks who's only been on AEW television maybe once or twice and has been in a Ring of Honor since then. I mean, there's a lot of talented women. Do you think maybe we see a switch where Marina goes over there, holds a title for a while, and we bring some of them over to the AEW?
Well, for Connor's sake, I hope she disappears and goes poof. But because I saw her and I was like, Marina Shafir, and I was like, oh my God, that's her. I go, oh my God. Ew. That was my first thought. Like, who dyes your hair and who does your makeup? My God. And I look a hot mess because I was actually out and about with my sister today on Lakeshore Drive down by one of the beaches. But no, I looked and I go, okay. And I'm still, aside from her, I don't think I have ever seen her wrestle before. And I'm just like, okay, I know that name. And I go, that's the girl Connor doesn't like. But I just, I wonder too, if she went over to Ring of Honor, that might be a better fit for her and to bring some of those other girls. I know the one who was, oh gosh, the really short girl, dark skin that was in WWE, Ember Moon, I think was that the one that went over? We actually saw her live. I don't remember which Dynamite taping we were at in Chicago, and she is like tiny. I didn't realize how short she was, but the girl can go. I mean, for how tiny she is. But I think, yeah, Marina, I mean, if she went over there, that's fine. As long as Connor doesn't have to see her, we're good.
Yeah, Jason. Oh, go ahead, Connor.
I was going to say that she's been on Ring of Honor. Like, they put her on there for a while. And as long as they don't put a microphone on her to protect her, even if she can't go in the ring, I don't know how you protect her from that. You just put her in squash matches. But if anyone's seen her promos, they're very, very, very bad. Like,
cringy?
Very embarrassing. Even the commentators acknowledged it. Just go on just put AEW Dark Marina Shafir promo.
Jason, I want to get your thought on that. I mean, about maybe bringing some of those girls that have been in Ring of Honor for enough time to where, hey, maybe we can get them and introduce them to the AEW crowd.
Well, I mean, all the other Ring of Honor champions appear on AEW, so I mean, you don't technically have to take the belt off Athena to get her on TV. I mean, I agree with you guys. She's very good. She cuts a good promo. I don't see why she hadn't gotten any AEW TV time, but I mean, I lost count on the pay-per-view at 71 when I was counting how many performers were on the show. I was counting each one, like with the tag team matches, and then of course the gauntlet match. And like I said, once I got to 71, I just quit. But as far as Marina Shafir goes, the only promo that I remember her doing was the cringy one in the middle of the ring, and I don't know if it was Dynamite or Collision, but where she was talking about you've got a problem.
Oh, God. Yeah,
I'm like,
I don't even remember her doing a promo, to be honest with you.
Other than that, I'm not real familiar with her. I thought she was in NXT. That's why I asked you earlier. But I will say this, I get a lot of flack for criticizing a lot of the stuff they do. She's with Moxley. I agree with Connor. Moxley's been stale for a while now. We've discussed that, but it was a different presentation Wednesday night. And they say iron sharpens iron, and I will give it a chance to see where it goes before I completely condemn it. But it like Connor said, if they just keep her mouth shut and let her do she's an MMA fighter. She knows how to fight. If they want to give her kind of a China role to get involved and do stuff like that, it might get over depending on who else Moxley brings into whatever he's about to do. So I'll give it the benefit of the doubt until they give me complete reason to shit all over it while we're sitting here talking. But I'll refrain until then.
Yeah, no, I'm on agreement with you guys. She's just not great at promos. I don't think her in-ring stuff is bad. She could use a little work. She is still a little green. Given that, though, she's been in professional wrestling for a while now. I mean, I would say what has it been like 6 years now? She's been in it. I mean, when did she debut in 2019?
Yeah, she was in
I mean,
NXT.
is that when she got into it? So I mean, she's been in it for almost 8 years now. So you would think over those 8 years she would improve, but there's still a little bit because she's still utilizing a lot of her MMA into pro wrestling, which is fine. But I mean, you also got to put a little bit of presentation in your moves and put some big moves in it. For her, is just flips and holds and all this stuff. And it's like, I understand you're also probably paying homage to a lot of wrestling technicians of the past, like a Dean Malenko or, you know, an Eddie Guerrero and all that stuff. But at the same time, you do got to add some stuff to your arsenal. And I agreed, Moxley has gotten stale, but at least he does like big moves, like big clotheslines and big flips and, you know, big, you know, suplexes, all that stuff. She barely does that. So I think having someone like a Moxley by her side, like I think Jason, you said it, like someone like a China Roll, like having her as a China Roll next to Moxley, maybe him bringing in someone else and kind of having their own form of not a Generation X, but like a new, like hardcore, like just fighters, like a fighters group, like almost like a breakaway from the Blackpool Combat Club. Again, we were just talking about that before the show started, about that kind of just like fizzled out, and we don't even know who's members in that group anymore.
Yeah,
I don't know either. I'm sitting here looking at Blackpool Combat Club, like, okay, is he in? Is he out? It's almost like a revolving door at, you know, a Chicago train station, basically.
Yeah, like that's one thing I don't like. Like AEW's done this before, where like they'll have something and then just fizzle it all. They'll just fizzle it out, and they won't do a story with it. Like the Blackpool Combat Club's a pretty big faction in AEW history. You know, William Regal created the group, so I feel like if they're going to split, then they need a really proper story to why they're splitting, because it would make no sense for him. Like the last we saw of him, he was with the Blackpool Combat Club, and then he comes back, and then that's it. Like they need to explain all that.
Yeah, well, to play devil's advocate on that and saying why you probably won't get that if they split up is just the whole MJF Adam Cole, that payoff was just ridiculous. I mean, all that build up just to have MJF come back in a pay-per-view and give Adam Cole the brain buster and say, get that piece of shit out of my ring. And it's not mentioned anymore after months and months of build up. So, you know, I don't have any faith when it comes to them explaining certain things, but that's just me.
Well, and it was kind of like, too, the whole purpose of the Devil storyline. Like, we saw the mask. We were hoping it was Punk under the mask. I mean, I still think that would have been the best Devil that they could have come up with, because it's like the anti-hero Punk that everyone loves. And then we find out it's Cole behind the mask. We get Rod Strong, Taven Bennett, Wardlow. They've got them together. And then it's like, okay, and then where's Wardlow? We still don't have Wardlow. Everything is around Taven Bennett. You see Cole come back with the mask. MJF is out. MJF comes back. He's got the mask. And then Adam Cole's like on again. So what was the purpose of that storyline? We still don't know. We don't understand it. And it's really interesting as to how, you know, the creative mind of Tony Khan is working, but not working, because he's giving us these ideas. And then like not doing anything. It's like, remember when you were, you know, you'd have to write a paper. Like if I wrote a paper, I'm going to write down like the main points, then I kind of scratch the points out. It's like writing a paper, making a list of all these points, and then you're talking about them, but not really expanding on them. And that's what Tony Khan does. That's what he did with the Devil storyline.
Well, I'll play devil's advocate on that. I think that storyline, and then we'll get into our topic tonight, but I think that storyline derailed was because of injuries. I mean, it's something that was uncontrolled. It was out of Tony Khan's control. It was out of the whole storyline's control. I mean, the foot injury to Cole kind of ruined it, and then, you know, MJF taking time off for his injuries kind of derailed that story, and you know, the whole Undisputed Kingdom kind of just was stale. You know, and now none of them hold gold anymore. And so I think that's kind of fizzled out. And I think right now what we're seeing is maybe, you know, at the point of, hey, maybe this is the time where they give Adam Cole a little more time, because you got to remember, this guy also was was just recently when he came back previously from an injury. It was a head injury that they didn't think he was going to come back from. So they're like, maybe they're playing cautious with Adam Cole. They're like, listen, we want to make sure your whole body's 100% before we put you in any physical matches, anything like that. And I think it was just the disappointment and just the derailment of that was because of injuries. But again, I'm with you on that one too, Danny, is, they've got nothing to do with Wardlow. Wardlow has literally disappeared.
Yeah.
The rest of Undisputed Kingdom has literally lost their gold. Mostly, especially their gold to, Sammy Guevara and Dustin Rhodes. So, and Roderick is not international champion anymore. Right now that one is Will Ospreay. And so, now it's just those three. And the thought is, do we really want to keep going on calling them Undisputed Kingdom? Do we just want to put those three as a different group and rename them? I think that's just the thought process that goes through.
I'll say this for it. One of the reasons it, I don't know, gets under my skin so much is that's the second time they've done that with Adam Cole. When they put Adam Cole and Red Dragon with the Young Bucks, we all saw the turn coming, but they went out there knowing that Adam was not cleared and Kyle O'Reilly was not cleared, and they did the angle anyway. And then Kyle O'Reilly wound up being out for over a year, and then Cole's head injury was a lot worse than what they first thought. But you don't go out there and start an angle when two of those three competitors were not cleared.
Right.
You wait till they come back. Of course, everybody wanted to see them bring in Roddy and then have the Bucks bring Kenny and Adam Page back together and have the Undisputed Era versus the Elite. And I was one of them. I wanted to see it. But, like I said, you don't start an angle when two of your guys aren't cleared to compete. And that's what they did. And it just made me shake my head. And it goes back to inexperience on Tony Khan's part.
Yeah. Well, and I wanted to address, Connor, what you had mentioned in the chat, where there was that picture that went around like the Wardlow group where somebody had posted that Wardlow wasn't in London for All In. Yeah. I have to stop and think. I'm getting used to this, like not having my nanny kid for like a month. So I'm getting used to having a Sunday back. So forgive me for a minute, but just an interesting thing that there was speculation that he wasn't there, something about the girlfriend's birthday. And Connor, your comment too, I too, again, would like to see him in WWE. Well, then Michael, hi, Michael, who mentioned also in the group chat that he was at the gym and he ran into like one of Wardlow's friends, I guess, was at the gym. And he was just saying, yeah, my buddy is in AEW, and that, Tony Khan is like having Wardlow sit at home. So he's paying him not to go to WWE. So it's almost like Tony Khan realizes Wardlow's talent. He realizes what he can do. He has been, nicknamed, this generation's Batista. Batista, again, was one of my faves back in the day. And I think with Tony Khan, he realizes it. I think he's scared. I think he's scared that, one, Wardlow's going to go to WWE and he's going to be like, hey, come to WWE. So then Wardlow could get everybody over there thanks to Cody. Then where would that leave Tony Khan? And then there's also the speculation too that, and I saw somebody make this comment the other day, that Tony Khan is almost turning into, I hate to say this, Herb Abrams with his spending and with his booking.
No, I agree. And I'm glad you brought up Abrams. That's, just throwing money around. And I'm kind of going to go on the opposite end of what you were saying, Danny. And it's no disrespect to you being a Wardlow. I don't think Tony Khan is paying Wardlow not to go to WWE. I think Tony Khan is not scared of all that. I think Tony Khan just knows that he's screwed if he loses Wardlow. Because he's already screwed him up already as a character. Yeah. And he knows that. So he's paying him. He says, stay at home. We'll get something figured out for you. But then Wardlow's sitting at home doing nothing. And this is not a slide at Wardlow, but he's one of those guys that is so big, he's mean, but he needs a mouthpiece. I'm sorry, the man cannot cut a promo. The man is size, but he's also starting to get stale to me as well. He really is. He's a big guy. I feel like he can do more, and I feel like he can have that ability, and that's why I think he does fit in that WWE mold with those big guys. I think he fits in with a Braun Strowman or Bronson Reed, or some
Braun Breaker.
Yeah, Braun Breaker. Tall guys like a Damian Priest. He fits in against all those guys. And so I think he's just getting wasted away, just getting paid. I mean, honestly, the nice thing is the WWE TKO, you know, they have that in that contract where, hey, you have a license to your name. You come over with that Wardlow name, you can keep that Wardlow name. You know, I mean, it's unfortunate that, you know, I like the fact that Brian Pillman Jr. came over, but he changed his name to Lexus King. They had a story to it. Why? He's like, because I want to break that history of my family name. My family name is trash and it is bad luck, and I'm changing that. You know, there's a story to that. But if he leaves WWE and goes somewhere else, he could return to that Brian Pillman Jr. name, or he can keep that Lexus King name because you can use that name either way. With someone like Wardlow, I just think he's grown too stale, and he's getting wasted just sitting at home getting paid when he could be developing his stuff over at WWE.
Yeah.
Not only that, though, I've said it before. I think Wardlow's downfall started when they did not strap the rocket on him and go to the moon when they let him squash MJF to get out of that bodyguard role. Because once you let somebody squash your biggest star, you know, that's the time. You know, if he can do that to MJF, you know, what should he be able to do to everybody else they put in front of him? And it just kind of fizzled out. They didn't do anything with it.
Yeah. I will say, like before, like, you know, during Revolution, when they had that, you know, he won that. It was like a multi-man match at Revolution, and he won like a title match to go against Joe.
Yeah, those
two promos that he cut before Revolution were really, really good, and he showed improvement. But then they had him lose to Joe, and then that was it. And like, I think some of him being stale is just on bad booking. You know, he won the TNT title. He went against jobbers for the team. Like, he didn't go against anybody. He won the title, then lost it, then won it, then lost it, then won it.
Yeah, I can't think of anybody more than him that they've done so much start and stop with booking wise.
Yeah, like they'll start and stop him, and then that can kind of make someone stale. Which I don't think he would be stale if they would just book him right. You know, he
wouldn't be.
He's got a good moveset, which I think in NXT, if they put him in NXT first, I feel like they could help him tweak up some of the things that he needs to work on, because, you know, they've got a lot of good coaches there. You know, CM Punk and Cody, like, they're good friends with him. I feel like he could be able to tweak some of the stuff that he needs worked on in ring and maybe some mic stuff, even though he did show improvement this year from what we did see of him on the mic. But I think if he went to WWE, that could help him. I wish Dusty Rhodes was still alive, because I feel like Dusty Rhodes would have jumped all over that. But you got Shawn Michaels, you know, you got other good coaches. So I think they could help him tweak up some of the things that he needs to work on.
Well, another thing with him as well is, you know, like the start and stop booking. You know, the last time Adam Cole was on TV before the MJF quick blow off at the pay-per-view, he was on there with the Undisputed Kingdom, basically telling Wardlow that he messed up, that he didn't do this, he didn't do that. And then they had another interview in ring where you saw Adam Cole giving Wardlow the evil eye and this, that, and the other. And then I saw that one away as well. And you talk about him in the WWE, you know, give me something to say on this real quick. The power bomb, nobody's really using that in the WWE. That would fit well. And as far as the power bomb goes, we have not mentioned it yet. Rest in peace, Sid. Always one of my favorites. People will call him Psycho Sid. They'll call him Sid. He'll always be Sid Vicious to me.
Sid Justice.
But you think about it. You know, a lot of people, he doesn't get the credit he deserves. He main evented WrestleMania against Hulk Hogan, did not lose. Then he main evented WrestleMania again against The Undertaker, where he dropped the title to Taker. The man was ahead of his time. He was built like a brick shit house, and he was huge. He looked the part. His interview style wasn't for everybody, but if you really listen close, and the loudness to the bring it down and the psychotic laugh, Psycho Sid did fit for his personality on screen. And from everything you've heard, you know, and read, he was a very big family man, and just, you know, gone too soon. He should have already been in the Hall of Fame, kind of like with Vader. Now they won't get to address the fans and thank them for everything they gave them to. But rest in peace, Sid. Always one of my favorites.
Agreed. Great talking points about that. I guess we'll move on to, you know, our topic at hand. And, you know, we just had probably one, if not the biggest pay-per-views in the world for a promotion. Actually, two of them. back to back, SummerSlam and then an all in and all that stuff with AEW and WWE. And, I decided, I was like, let's talk about it because, I mean, these are big shows or, PPLs as WWE is doing it. That's what they're calling them, PPLs. They're not pay-per-views anymore. It's PPLs. But, I wanted to go over the big four, and just kind of compare and contrast the big four. And, as wrestling fans, is that what we kind of keen in on those big four pay-per-views? Or do we always gravitate to the smaller ones where they may have some good matchups? I mean, I'll get your guys' opinion on that, and then we'll kind of go over each four for each company. I mean, what do you guys feel? Do you guys feel like you always want to watch one of the big fours from each company? Or do you guys enjoy the whole smaller pay-per-views that maybe just come up like a WWE Bad Blood and an AEW World's End? So, I mean, what are your guys' thoughts?
For me, at least for the AEW set, I've watched every pay-per-view live, or if I didn't watch them live, I was there at them. The one pay-per-view I did not watch or did not order or anything was Forbidden Door this year. But for AEW, it seems like their big four, like when they first started, they only had 4 pay-per-views. It was Double or Nothing, All Out, Full Gear, and Revolution. That was kind of their big four. But now you have All In, which that kind of squeezes into a big four now. So, and for the WWE side, I wasn't watching WWE until CM Punk came back. So now I just watch everything. Raw, SmackDown, NXT, the pay-per-views. The bigger pay-per-views, like the Royal Rumble, are more fun to watch because, especially like the Royal Rumble match, you want to know like the surprises in the Royal Rumble match. You want to know, there could be some NXT people, there could be returning people, there could be legends. You never know who could be in it. And of course, WrestleMania Survivor Series is always a tradition, the traditional Survivor Series match, which they've kind of made into a War Games now every year. SummerSlam, that's been a big one. But for me, I like the smaller pay-per-views too, like Bad Blood, or back in the day when they did Armageddon. Like I used to like those. I like like back then they had like really cool stages for pay-per-views. Like each pay-per-view was a completely different stage, and like the Armageddon one was always cool, like the fire going. I always liked that. But I enjoyed at least for it's hard to I guess for AEW it's like World's End and Dynasty and Forbidden Door, like those are their lower tier pay-per-views. But I like the lower tier pay-per-views as well because some of those you can see other guys you wouldn't see on a bigger pay-per-view, and there's some matches might not be good, some matches might not be too great. But like for Bash and Berlin, that was kind of like a lower tier pay-per-view. Every match was good. I thought like every match has something to bring. So it just depends. Like I remember when they did Judgment Day, the pay-per-view, not Action. Yeah, I like the lower tier pay-per-views. Sometimes those can be more fun. That you can have a lot more energized crowd. It's just sometimes that happens, but I prefer both. I watch all of it really.
Jason,
it's changing for me. I used to be a big four as far as the WWE went, and I was a big Royal Rumble guy. I still like the Rumble. It's just not as interesting to me as it used to be because of the size of the roster. And I get it. There's so many people on the roster now. There's only so many spots to do that unless they want to increase the number to 40 from 30 to try to get a few more spots in there. But, years ago when you had all the split promotions, you might have returning legends. I mean, you instead of just one or two, you would have, 3, 4, 5, 6 surprises. Kurt Hennig come back that year against Steve Austin. It looked so good they gave him his job back. For example, one thing I'll give the WWE credit for since Triple H has taken over, that the smaller pay-per-views like yesterday that'll give you, if you pay attention, is they're continuing storylines. And if you pay, it's little minute details that you have to pay attention to. The Cody and Kevin stuff is not over. It's far from over. Whether Cody goes heel, which, you never know what's going to happen. Cody makes a great heel. If anybody has never seen his heel stuff, those big words he likes to use, he comes across as I'm better than you. No knock to Max, but that's just the way Cody likes to come across in his suit and tie and big words. The Judgment Day, we know that feud's going to continue. If they do it right, after Gunther shook Randy Orton's hand yesterday for his next challenger to come out, and he's like, I just beat Randy Orton yesterday, and that's not bragging, that's just fact. And you might be good, but you're no Randy Orton. What makes you think you're going to stand a chance against me? There's just little stuff that the WWE continues to do with their smaller pay-per-views that continue storylines going into Raw, going into SmackDown. And the one thing that AEW's got to get a handle on, for me personally, is the damn things are just too long. If you pay attention to the crowd, like I said, when we saw Sting's final match, I enjoyed it. I had a good time, but damn it, I was so ready to leave. I was so ready to get out of the Greensboro Coliseum. And, sitting there trying to watch something, especially if you want to watch the post show, man, and if it's on a Sunday and you got to work Monday morning, you're going to be sitting there at 1:30, 2 o'clock in the morning. And, if you go back and you watch, Wembley, the crowd was, you could tell they were tired through certain parts of those matches toward the end. They kind of piped back up and pepped back up for Bryan and Swerve, but there were some of those later matches the crowd was just dead for, and it had nothing to do with the in-ring work or the stories being told. It was just how long they had been sitting there watching stuff. So I just wish AEW would get a handle on that. I mean, I know Tony wants to get, like I told you, I stopped counting at 71, as far as performers on the show. I wish somebody would pull him aside and, like putting Ricochet's name down for that gauntlet match. And like, is this really how we want to debut him? No, he didn't get his shoulders pinned, but I mean, he became kind of insignificant in that match, except for a couple of spots. And was he the biggest name that they could have gotten from WWE? No. But I think Ricochet fits better in AEW than he did in WWE.
Oh yeah.
If he's used correctly. It's just a way to do things. And, 6-hour pay-per-views, I think Triple H learned his lesson from watching the mistakes Vince McMahon made. Personally, it's, you listen to him talk, he won't take shots at Vince, but, he gives you reasonings for certain things he does. And, why WrestleMania was split into 2 nights, why SummerSlam is, going to be split into 2 nights. And I think eventually down the road, the Royal Rumble will be split into 2 nights, which I think is a good idea. You've got the women and the men's Rumble. You've got a world title and a WWE title that can be on separate nights. Because like I said, the fans get tired. You can only scream and holler for so long before, somebody comes out, and you might like them, but you're just like, ugh, I need a break. So, the big four, like I said, for me, that used to be the thing. But like I said, if you watch what's going on now, the smaller ones are continuing the storylines, and just got to pay attention to the details.
Yeah. Danny, how about your compare and contrast of the smaller pay-per-views to the big four?
The big four, again, I mean, I grew up with them. I remember being so excited pay-per-view weekends. And this is, of course, when you had to call your, cable or satellite provider, and then you would turn it onto the channel and you'd get like the big thick lines that were about this thick that were squiggly. And then you could still hear the pay-per-view, but not see what was going on type thing. And I mean, there's something to look forward to. I mean, they're part of, my childhood, which I love. But then I've also been to 2 of the smaller pay-per-views for WWE. I was at Payback 2013 and 2014. I actually wore my Punk shirt a couple weeks ago from Payback 2013. And those were actually fun because they were both in Chicago. It was the hype and it was the match. For AEW pay-per-views, and again, I agree with Jason, it's almost like Tony Khan doesn't have a watch. It's almost like he, tells them to go out and wrestle. And then he's like, you know what? Okay, now we can start ending the match. It's like he's whispering into someone's ear who's going to let them know, hey, enough time is gone. We're going to end the match. And as somebody who was at All Out last year, I remember I started falling asleep towards the end of All Out. And I'm sitting here in the United Center, like, my husband sitting next to me. And I was like, I started dozing off. I started getting bored. And that was the Orange Cassidy match. And we ended up leaving early because we obviously had to be, Chicago traffic number 1, but also arena traffic too. And it was like, I just felt like it dragged on and on and on and on and on. And Jason's got a good point that, the WWE pay-per-views, no matter if it's a big one or small one, they seem to have a time limit per match, whereas AEW just keeps going and going and going until Tony Khan says, okay, now we'll stop the match. So it's like there's no predetermined time limit for matches, which again, you go to a pay-per-view, it's like, okay, is this over yet? You're up till midnight. You got to work on a Monday morning. You're going to be dragging your butt out of bed because of a pay-per-view.
Yeah, no, and I'm 100% behind that. I mean, I grew up obviously loving to order the big four for WWE back when it was WWF. And, you know, start watching AEW and getting into those. Like, that's when I realized, I was like, wow, certain pay-per-views for AEW are very long. And I'm like, and it just keeps going. And I don't know if it's the mind behind Tony saying, oh no, give him more, give him more. You know how you work the circus and the showman's like, more, here's more, watch some more. This is what we can do more. Like, oh, hey, he's juggling. Oh, wait, let him juggle chainsaws. Wait, he's juggling chainsaws while standing on a ball rolling. Like, bro, it's like, okay, we get it. It's a good match. But at some point you have to end it because that crowd can only cheer and go, ooh, ah, so much.
Yeah.
You know, so it's like, but and I like that comparison that Jason had of saying about the whole fixing what Vince did, because I do remember some of those old school big fours in the days when Vince running it felt like they ran for a long time, and they were also on Sundays. And I had school the next day, and I'm like, oh my god, it's midnight, and I got to go to this match is still going, and I got to go to school tomorrow, but I don't want to miss the rest of this match,
right.
You know. So it's like. I'm glad that the one thing I will say that I'm glad WWE does is they put their shows, a lot of their big like main roster shows on a Saturday night, which is smart. I can understand that the issue with that is AEW maybe not want to compete against that for their big pay-per-views if it's the same weekend. By the grace of God, they have a pay-per-view the same weekend, but we rarely see it. But I'm saying that's a nice thing about spreading out shows. And like Jason said, I think the smaller pay-per-views, because I was with Connor, I loved the smaller pay-per-views as well. You know, I also loved Armageddon just because of the theme song they would use for so many years, like the end is near, like that was like their big theme song for like so many Armageddons. And I think the biggest pay-per-view I really enjoyed wasn't even a big four from WWE. It was literally No Mercy. No Mercy was like one of my favorite pay-per-views growing up. Like I like that had so many good matches on No Mercy cards growing up. I was like, dude, this pay-per-view card is way better than the big four because there were storylines, like Jason said, there were storylines continuing. There were storylines beginning at a pay-per-view like that, and you just kept seeing them. AEW, what I like now is they're starting to integrate smaller other pay-per-views, not just their big four, but pay-per-views like a Wrestle Dream, like a Forbidden Door, like a World's End. You know, they're starting to integrate it because, like Jason said, the number of the roster, it's like you can fit half of that 71 onto another card. Literally cut it in half. Then you wouldn't have to have that 6-hour pay-per-view that you need to have. You know, so it's like, I think that's the smart thing of why Paul, what he does with WWE, where he's like, I keep the card short, 5 or 6 matches, we still continue the storylines, and on the next pay-per-view, you'll see a different card. I mean, that's as simple as that. We don't have to fit so many people on one card unless it is the big pay-per-view. I mean, granted, WWE does that as well. I mean, they try to get as many people as they can on those big four, especially the Rumble. They're trying to get NXT people in there. They're trying to get SmackDown, Raw people. They're trying to get as many world titles in as possible. You know, they both have that whole fixing pay-per-view cards, because even on a Saturday, WWE starts at 6, but they're done at like 11:30, 12 o'clock. That's still 5-6 hours. That's still a long time.
Well, I'll give you 2 quick things on the smaller pay-per-views and the bigger ones for that matter. You know, they've been advertising Bad Blood for a while, you know, for next month. So I'm very, you know, and we've got to get to a 5-on-5 for Survivor Series. So with the advertisement of Bad Blood, as much as they've been promoting it with Cody and I forgot the rapper's name, sorry. You know, I'm interested to see if we're going to get to a Bloodline versus Bloodline for the War Games. And something I'm very guilty of when it comes to AEW pay-per-views. Like when it's getting, it's kind of started to drag on. Like somebody will come out and I'll be like, damn, I forgot about this match. I forgot it was even on the card, but that's what I wind up doing when, especially when you're getting toward the end. Like, and one I forgot about, last week with AEW was Britt and Mercedes. I'm like, oh yeah, this one's tonight too. That's one off the top of my head I can, think of that I forgot about, but that's just what I wind up running into with those 6-hour shows.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And speaking of AEW, I'm going to ask this question because this is the one that I said that I was going to ask before on air, because we talk about big fours and we talk about All In, but Start Out All Out was one of their big fours. Like, do you guys feel that All In has replaced All Out as that one big four? Because now they've done it 2 years in a row in London, and All Out is in a smaller arena in the suburbs of Chicago. Danny, you know what I'm talking about. I mean, it's there. So, I mean, do you guys feel that All In has now replaced All Out as now a new big four for AEW?
Well, I'm going to say this, Ford. Ask me again next year. And the reason I say that is I understand that they don't want to wear out Wembley Stadium. But on the flip side of that, it's only 1 year. I mean, it's once a year. And I'm sure WWE is probably planning something over there, as we speak, to go over there and say, hey, look, they did this. Look what we can do. However, and this isn't a knock. This is just fact. And I don't want them to fail. I want them to succeed. I like how, for the guys and the girls, I like they have another place to go that with an owner that's willing to pay money. And I will say this much, that, one thing I like about Tony Khan is, for as many faults as he has as a booker, you can tell he genuinely cares about his talent, the way he hugs them, the way he interacts with them. And for a boss, that's heartwarming. As a wrestling boss, probably not so much, because you let people walk over you and probably do things they shouldn't. But with them bringing the pay-per-view to a stadium in Texas next year, and the low attendance they get all around the U.S. for Dynamite, which is their A show, I think, unless something drastically changes, I think the diehard AEW fans, the AEW performers, and the AEW management and ownership are going to be very disappointed with the amount of people they put in a U.S. stadium versus what they were putting in stadiums at Wembley. And I hope I'm wrong. I hope that something changes and they get people interested enough to where, they can put 30, 40,000 people in a place inside the U.S. But as of right now, I just don't see it.
Yeah, I think last year's All Out sucked. I mean, I was going to be like, there was like 2 or 3 good matches, but because they had All In and All Out back-to-back weekends, like they built like 2 matches before All In started, but then they just randomly put stuff out. Samoa Joe and Shane Taylor, all right, they haven't been feuding. Let's just put the Young Bucks and FTR adult team up, like just last-minute stuff. But this year they've given it a 2-week gap, and already this year's All Out has a better build than last year's, like MJF and Garcia, Will Ospreay and Pac. They've got a lot of better matchups and better stories. Next year is All In's going to be in July, so they're not going to be anywhere near All Out. So I'm curious to see. But as a big four, I think All In has replaced All Out, because All In's just a bigger show. Like just the arena, like that's like All Out was one of their big fours, but All In's kind of taken that place. But yeah, as far as next year's All In, it's going to be in Dallas, Texas. I'm curious to see how they sell with that, because in the U.S. they can't sell anything. Like this next week on Dynamite, they're barely at 2,000. Like it's like some people will say that you saying that is bashing AEW, but it's just a fact. Well,
I can also see them having to do what WWE have had to do a few times when business was down, when they were trying to sell out one of those huge stadiums / arenas, and then they had to move it to a smaller arena because of bad ticket sales. And that's happened to WWE back in the day when business was down. So I can I'm going into it with an open mind. I just I hope I'm wrong. I mean, I hope they switch up and they whatever new TV deal is, and with the possible addition of stuff on Max, that they get enough people interested. I'd love to see them sell out, 30, 40,000 people. But right now, like Connor just said, I mean, Dynamite next week's got 2,000 people, and right now they have a lot of decent stuff going on. I mean, as much as I dislike Adam Page, the stuff that him and Swerve did this past Wednesday, I love Swerve's promo. Swerve's like, I was outside your house and I realized that that's just what you need to be, a husband and a dad. You're not on my level. And I was like, wow, get him, Swerve. And then Page did well by, giving the look of, how dare you? I don't know what to say. I'm going to storm off and see you in the cage. So I'm interested to see. I'm actually interested to see that match. First time I've been interested to see something with Adam Page in a while. But I hope, like I said, I hope they get there. I hope that they've got a plan to build up, all year long, when the 12 months, 11 months now, whatever it is, to get there and sell out. Maybe even, if not sell out, at least the majority of it, and not have to move to a smaller arena, because that would just be embarrassing to put on a pay-per-view in a stadium that's not even a quarter of the way full.
Yeah. Danny, your thoughts on that of all in being now the new big part of the big four?
Yeah, again, we wanted to go to All Out 2022, and that's when they put, if I remember right, I believe I was actually at work, so my husband works a job where he can take, small little breaks throughout the day. And he was telling me he got into queue for Ticketmaster, and that's when they put the tickets on sale virtually after Dynamite the day before or something like that. So we didn't even go. So then last year we were so excited to go, and then All In comes, and we were just kind of like, okay. And then I think the tickets went on sale for All Out before they announced All In, if I remember right. And we were so excited to go, but then we were just kind of like, okay, that was it. To me, last year, All Out felt like an overhyped version of Dynamite and Collision and Rampage. It was more not pay-per-view quality matches. I felt like All In took away from the magic of All Out. And again, as I was driving with my sister, we were heading on 290 inbound downtown, and we were sitting on Lakeshore Drive, and I was just thinking about how All In was, or I should say All Out was initially scheduled for this weekend. And I was on Twitter and I said, this is, ridiculous. I go, move All In up the card, do away with World's End, and have, all in, say, the end of December. So you're going all into a new year. We're all in a new year. That's kind of the marketing thing. And I'm sitting here thinking, okay, what's the purpose of hosting All In? What's the meaning for it? Because it takes away the magic of All Out. People were like, oh, you're this and you're that. You don't know. I'm like, you weren't there. I was there. So again, to move All Out back to next weekend, which I actually will be coming back to Chicago next weekend as well, I felt like he broke tradition. Again, All Out, I have to stop and think which one I'm talking about here. All Out has always been held Labor Day weekend since the inaugural event. I felt like he broke tradition by moving it back. Yet I do agree with Connor, there's a better build. The question of next year's All In being held, where is it being held? I think it's at the Texas Rangers Stadium, but I don't remember which stadium that is. And I don't know. Jason, do you know how big that stadium is by chance?
I'm sure it probably holds 50, 60,000 people, but we will look. Let's see. All In 2025.
Yeah. And I want to say
I'm pretty sure it's close to 50 because it's in Dallas, and I've been by that stadium, and a lot of games have been sold out in that stadium for baseball.
Yeah. I went to a Brewers game, and I want to say it's probably smaller than Miller Park, I bet, or it's bigger than Miller Park.
It's better. It's way bigger than Miller Park.
So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see what he does and if he can sell. But the question being, can Tony Khan let his pride aside and say, okay, I'm going to give you the reins of AEW. How can you help me? What can you do for me?
Yes, it's a Global Field in Arlington, Texas.
Yeah, that's it. And it's like right across from it's right across from AT&T Stadium, because I had to stop and think where it was, because we're contemplating going to All In next year down in Texas. We think it would be kind of fun for a road trip. And again, I think Tony Khan's issue, with creative control and with booking, is that he wants to do everything himself. That's fine. But at some point, you're going to have to say, okay, I need help here. Can you please help me? And I think he's got too much pride. In fact, he's a lot like me in the classroom. Like, I'm used to doing everything by myself. I won't ask for help because it's a pride thing. But then at times again, you have to ask for help. And I think that's Tony Khan's thing. He's too proud to ask for it.
Right. And I'm gonna step on this because you just mentioned it, that we were thinking about going. That's the quote you just said.
Yeah.
I think about it is the concern about, can we sell out that stadium in the States?
Mm-hmm.
Think about this. Yes, All in London has been great because you're getting those European crowds. But wouldn't it be right to say that maybe some Americans had passports fly out to that show as well? Especially as those diehard AEW fans in the States that have the passports. I mean, those 2,000 to 3,000 we talk about that go to a Dynamite or a Collision, they can go there. And I guarantee you most of that crowd at Wembley were not just Europeans. I guarantee you they were Americans. So could it not be at the same time that those fans in the Europe that has passports that can travel be like, man, we should go to the States. We should take a weekend off, go to the States, go to the AEW show. Like, do you not think that could also help maybe fill some of the seats? Maybe not sell out the stadium, but at least make it look presentable as a decent sellout arena or a sport arena show for a pro wrestling show. I mean, Jason, what's your take?
Well, real quick, the seating capacity for that stadium is 40,300. For a wrestling match, it's going to be maybe a little more, depending on, because they'll put seats down on the actual field for ringside. But it also depends on what their stage is going to look like. But it should be more than that. I actually got a question for you, because I was looking that up, only halfway listening to you. Which pay-per-view of AEW coming up this year is going to be in Tacoma, Washington? Do you know?
I believe that one's going to be Full Gear.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And the reason I'm asking is that's where I personally believe Bryan Danielson will lose the title to whoever he's going to lose it to. That way his friends and family don't have very far to travel. And so, in my opinion, whoever his challenger will be is going to, be the next AEW World Champion, whether it's a rematch with Swerve or whoever they want to put over at the time. And now, what was your question again, Adam? And
my question is because Danny brought up the thought process of her and her husband traveling to Arlington next year to go to All In Texas, and it made me think that maybe a few people in that crowd at All In this year at Wembley weren't just Europeans. There were Americans that probably had passports that were big AEW fans, like the 2,000 to 3,000 people we talk about on the weekly going to a house or a television tape show for AEW that says, let's go to London, let's go to All In, let's just do it. So wouldn't it suffice to say that maybe some of those diehard pro wrestling Europeans that enjoyed All In at Wembley go, hey, maybe we take a trip to the States. We got our passports. Let's go check out this Arlington Stadium and go watch some pro wrestling.
Oh, no, absolutely. I mean, I don't know what AEW's TV deal in London is, so I don't know how far they reach over there. Again, I think like last year, and again, this is not a knock on AEW. I was glad the show was so successful last year, but those people have been dying for a big show in Wembley Stadium, since basically SummerSlam and what is it, 92? So, and that's why they sold so many tickets so fast. People were just clamoring for that big wrestling event to come back to Wembley Stadium. And you saw it this year with the decline. I mean, they still sold 50,000 tickets. That's nothing to shake, sneeze at, but it wasn't the 70-some thousand they sold last year. And I can definitely see some people coming over from Europe, just like, there's folks that pay a lot of money to travel to London to go see it as well, that you're diehard AEW fans here as well. So absolutely, I can see it, but it's not going to fill a 40,000 seat arena or stadium. And so like I said, I just hope they do what they need to do to get that many people interested.
Yeah, I guess sticking with the travel questions, which and you can go both companies here. Which big four pay-per-view outside what we just mentioned with All In, outside of that one, and for both companies, which pay-per-view would you like to see host an international show? Like, and where at? Where would you like to see one of the big fours, either company, in a big international area?
Well, I mean, I think honestly, even though AEW was just in London, I mean, there's been a lot of talk for many years, and Cena brought it up last year while they were in London about bringing WrestleMania to London. And I don't know if there's
I was just thinking that.
I don't know if there's another place other than Wembley they could have it that holds that many people. I'm not that familiar with it, but I think then the next one you're going to see go overseas, because that's been Triple H's game plan. It looks like is to have all the other ones outside the U.S., which is why I think they need to bring back the European Championship and have it defended on all those shows. But I think eventually you're going to get one of the bigger ones, and I think everybody with the money they're making overseas, the first one you'll see will be WrestleMania in London.
Yeah. What about you, Danny?
Yeah, I was thinking WrestleMania because I don't think. Hold on. I know there was SummerSlam 92. I remember that was in London. Has London ever had a WrestleMania?
No, it's never been outside other than Canada. It's never been outside.
Yeah.
It's never been off North America.
Yeah, no, that would be interesting. I'd also, as a Park Chicago girl, and I just coined the term Wisconsin because I'm not really a Wisconsin girl. I'm a Chicago girl, and let's say I do have ketchup for my hot dogs. Shh, don't tell anybody. But so I would like to have, I think another big four needs to come back to Chicago because they did SummerSlam 94 at the United Center. United Center has been up for actually 30 years this year. That's where they did when they tore down the Chicago Stadium. Because if you've ever, for anybody in Chicago, the old Chicago, it was the Chicago Theater is on Madison Street.
Yep.
That's all a parking lot. So it's kind of cool when we were there because we were like part of history. But I think they need to bring one of the big four back to Chicago.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I think the last one they did was WrestleMania 22.
That sounds about right. Yeah,
that was the last one there.
Yeah, Chicago is long overdue for that.
For me, I'm gonna go both companies. I would really love them to put Revolution in France. I don't know why, just because of Revolution and France. Like for me, that just goes well. And WWE
that France crowd was hot, dude.
That France crowd was really hot for WWE. For what was that, Backlash? No.
Yes.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure which one it was, but I just
whatever it was, because Puerto Rico was last year, and so I think having like Revolution in France would be awesome. For WWE, I'd honestly love to see the Royal Rumble in like Australia. Like just to see like the Australian, like especially Sydney, just to see the Sydney skyline, like just be with the Royal Rumble and everything like that.
Or even Perth, I think.
Yeah, Perth would be great. I mean, I honestly think WWE also gets good crowds in Australia. I mean they love it. I mean AEW would probably get a good turnout too, depending on what they do there. But I would like to see those two shows, like especially one of those big fours. I mean, you do All In London, but why not take one of your other big fours in AEW and do an international show somewhere? It could work, like a Revolution, or like it says, maybe a Full Gear. Maybe do a Full Gear in Mexico. That Mexico crowd would love it. Would love an American wrestling promotion there. I mean, WWE's already been there. CMLL is already huge there. AAA is huge there. I mean, they would love to see these guys come down, especially if CMLL and AAA guys usually show up in AEW. That crowd already knows them. So now you're getting introduced to more AEW guys at that show. So, but that's just my thought. I think that would be really cool. As we're getting the hour, I'm going to go ahead and switch gears to more fun question for you guys. If memories can jog, and it can be either the last 5 years that we've had AEW or the last forever that we've had WWE. But outside of the big four, which year and which pay-per-view of the big four has been your favorite growing up watching? So that basically, Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, or in the last 5 years, Revolution, Full Gear, All In, All Out, and I can't remember the last one. Oh my god.
Double or Nothing.
Double or Nothing. Thank you. So out of any of that, which years and show has been your guys' favorite?
Well, I'm gonna say this, and I'm gonna poo-poo all over it because but they still own the name because they bought it. So I'm gonna say Starrcade '83 because that was the original. And not only was it the original, but I was there. 10-year-old me was there. And I actually went back and watched the Piper Valentine dog collar match again the other day. I hadn't watched it in a while. And for as much as we say old school couldn't hold up with today's ADHD crowd, that Piper Valentine match would still go today. So Starrcade '83.
Danny?
Okay, I'm giving you a twofer again today. So the first part of my answer is going to be WrestleMania 2. I don't know why, but there's just something about 2 that was kind of cool because they had it Chicago. What were the other 2 cities? There was Chicago, LA.
I'm pretty sure Madison Square Garden was one.
Yeah, and there was another one. That was, for some reason, that was one of my favorites. I don't even know why. I just loved it. But the ones that have tugged at my heartstrings were the Rumble when Edge returned in 2010 and 2020. Because Edge was back, and I cried both times.
So I'm going to go both companies. For AEW, I really enjoyed their 2022 Full Gear. I enjoyed that pay-per-view. That one was really fun. But for WWE, the one that always sticks out just because of the promotional work, the matches, the build, the music to it, SummerSlam 98. I don't know what, but that Highway to Hell song as one of the official themes.
Yes.
It was just to build up to the Stone Cold Undertaker main event. And that main event was awesome. I mean, that the leg drop from the rope onto the table to Stone Cold from the Undertaker, that lives in my head like 24/7. That pay-per-view by far was one of my favorite pay-per-views. I mean, and then you also had the freaking New Age Outlaws against Mankind and Kane for the tag titles, but it was when Kane turned on Mankind again. And it's like, and he like choke slammed him into a dumpster. And it was just like, I'm like, bro, like this is just insane. Like it was a really good pay-per-view. So I will say SummerSlam 98 was probably by far one of my favorite of all time of the big four.
Well, I can't sit here and tell you, a favorite pay-per-view of all time as far as certain things go, but if we're talking WrestleMania, I'll give you my top 3 matches and you'll see a common denominator here. I think my favorite match of all time is Michaels Taker 1. Then you got Austin Hart in the double turn. And then, I know a lot of people like it's an Iron Man match, but I loved the Michaels Bret Hart Iron Man match. You can walk away and come back at 58 minutes and see who's going to win the match. But it was the point of the storytelling, the guys keeping up for an hour to keep people interested. So, I know Michaels Taker 1 was WrestleMania 25. I believe Hart and Michaels was WrestleMania 12 and Austin Hart was WrestleMania 13, if I remember off the top of my head correctly. But matches stick out to me because, I don't care which company it is. I mean, it goes back to the NWA, WCW, AEW, WWE. You're going to find great matches on every big show. And you're going to find other matches that you go take a piss during. Or you get up and get you a snack. And so it's the certain matches that stick out for me, not the shows themselves.
Agreed. And you know what? We'll end on that positive note. It's we're getting towards the end of the year. I think there's a couple more big fours left for both companies. Obviously, Full Gear is still happening, and obviously Survivor Series is going to be the big one coming up here for WWE. But I guess we got to just enjoy the little pay-per-views in between. Like the All Outs and the World's End and the Bad Blood coming in. So I think right now it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. I think we're getting a lot of good wrestling. I think we're just we're spoiled as pro wrestling fans, and I'm not going to complain about that. I thank you guys for joining me. Thank you, Connor, for joining tonight. He had to go because you guys got your live reaction to NXT tonight. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you, Jason, Danny. Always a pleasure. Thank you, everybody in the comments. Thank you for all the listeners. For the next few weeks, we'll be here on Sundays till my work schedule changes. But for right now, we're going to be on Sundays. And so very excited. Make sure you guys hit that like button, subscribe, follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitch. We have Tuesdays. We have our AEZ Canada. Hopefully we'll be back next week. I believe we're off these next 2 weeks as we tweak that show a little bit. Wednesdays, we have our Dynamite reaction. And then we always have pay-per-view reactions for both WWE and AEW. They're mostly on the sister channel, which is Wide World of Wrestling. So make sure you guys follow that. Again, if there's nothing else, I thank you guys all again. So
I'll just end it on this for me. I'm headed in there to watch the NXT show here in just a second. It's on right now. And just one more time, rest in peace, Big Sid. You were one of a kind, bro.
Yes, thank you, Psycho Sid, for the memories. Sid Justice, Sid Vicious, Psycho Sid, however you want to call him. He was one of a kind, and we're gonna miss him. So again, if there's nothing else, we thank you guys all, and as